And I was wondering, I'm like, what's going on here? And then I realized I had been wearing so many masks for so long, especially the mask of must be seen as Mr. Nice Guy. And while keeping these masks on, I was basically adding a lot of clutter in my life. So we're clear on what clutter is. Let me share my definition. Clutter is nothing more than shunned confrontations.
Hello and welcome to Connect with Confidence. This is our third and very exciting episode for this year, 2021. And I'm here with Saahil Mehta from the Middle East, Dubai. Is that correct, Saahil?
That's correct, Kerrie. So such a pleasure to be here with you.
Oh, I'm so excited. And just to share with you all, we connected because Gautam Ganglani emailed me a few weeks ago and said, you would love to talk to Saahil because he's just published this book called Break Free. And as many of you know, Gautam was on the podcast last year with his book, Breaking Bread. And so we love talking all things connection. And Saahil, you really help people to connect in a variety of ways. And I'm really intrigued to help unpack your book with you today to learn how can we declutter our life. How does that help us to connect with confidence, with authenticity? And so I'm just going to say, take it away. Tell us about you, tell us about your book, and I'm sure I'll have some questions that I'll throw in every now and then.
Thank you, Kerrie. So, the best way to explain it is just to say it how it is and to share how my journey began. So it was the spring of 2016, and my friends and I, 8 of us, were on our way to the magical island of Ibiza. And while we were waiting at the airport at Barcelona at the gate, I turned over to one of my friends, Vinny, and I said, hey, how can we make this trip spectacular? How do we take it to the next level? And we came up with 2 words: no judgment.
Nice.
And then we shared that with the rest of the group, and they all agreed. And that's where that magic occurred inside of me. It was as if this huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I didn't have to be anyone else. I didn't have to impress anyone else. I could just be me. Now, the next 4 days, I experienced joy that was euphoric. Just to give you an example, one night we were dining at a restaurant called Leo. So Leo is this amazing restaurant where they have all these acts during dinner. So, there'll be dance, magic, and acrobatics and various other things. So we had a table right next to the stage, the main stage. And during one of the acts, this lady points at me, one of the dancers, and says, come up. And now the previous me would have shrunk back in my chair, probably looked the other way. But this time around, I said, hey, no judgment. Let's go. And it was liberating. Wow. And that's pretty much what I experienced for the full 4 days. And so as I'm coming back to Dubai, I'm just filled with so much joy. I want to share this with my wife, Ekta. And I said, okay, let me journal. Let me write this down while it's fresh in my mind. And, the plane ride back is about 7-8 hours. So that gave me more than ample time to write everything down. As I started writing, Kerrie, tears started trickling down my face.
Wow.
And I was wondering, I'm like, what's going on here? And then I realized I had been wearing so many masks for so long, especially the mask of must be seen as Mr. Nice Guy. Mm. And while keeping these masks on, I was basically adding a lot of clutter in my life.
Wow.
Now, just so we're clear on what clutter is, let me share my definition. So my definition of clutter is nothing more than shunned confrontations. I was shunning confrontations with my health. I was shunning confrontations in my mind, my body, but even more so with other people.
Yeah.
And this, and clutter, if I had to use a metaphor, it felt like a ball and chain was wrapped around my leg. And not just one. For each piece of clutter I had in my life, there was another piece of ball and chain. And I was dragging this around with me everywhere I was going. Mm. And I can tell you, as a mountain climber, when you have all that extra weight, it means your journey becomes harder.
Yes.
It's going to require more energy. And the chance of you making it to the summit is going to go down.
Yeah.
And so that's when I said, this is enough. I'm I know I live in a world of judgment, but even if I can feel half of what I felt during those days, that's a huge step forward. And that's when I made myself the number one priority. And I started to identify the clutter that was in my life and break free from it one at a time.
Wow.
And so as I did this, people started to notice a change. So they came up to me and said, Saahil, what's going on? You know, you look happier. You've got more, like this amazing energy around you. What's changed? What's happening? And so I shared, and then, you know, people started talking about it. And then I was at the closing event of the entrepreneurs organization that I'm a member of. And James walks up to me, you know, when I'm standing at the bar, and he goes, Saahil, whatever you've shared has had a huge impact on my life. Don't keep this to yourself, share with the world. And that was kind of my aha moment. And I said, okay, I need to start sharing. And I started sharing. And then the next thing I knew, I'm on a flight to Nairobi in Kenya for a paid keynote to speak in front of lots of successful entrepreneurs. You know, and that's when I realized, I said, okay, this message clearly has importance. People are looking for these tools. And then I also realized that I can't be everywhere.
Yeah.
So I decided that it's time for me to write a book.
Wow.
Because the book is easy access for the world. They don't need to have me there physically. They don't have to spend lots of money. They can just spend a small amount and still get all the tools and rituals that I've developed for the Break Free framework in order to declutter their life.
Wow. So you had this moment of writing on the plane on the way back from that magical island. And did you imagine that that might ever be a book, or was that not a thought until you did that Nairobi trip?
No, it didn't enter my mind at all. I never thought this would become what it is today.
Yeah, wow.
I was just sharing out of the goodness of my heart, hoping that it would positively impact other people.
Wow. So did you ever think of yourself as potentially an author at one day? You know, apparently 80 or 90% of the population see themselves as writing a book. Did you harbor that as a younger person, or is it really just taken you by surprise since this time?
I think I believe the statistic that you just shared, because I did one, you know, back in the day, maybe a decade ago, I can't remember, but I did think that one day I might write a book. On what? I had no idea. Would it be fiction or nonfiction? I had no idea. I guess there was just this desire to perhaps write a book, but then it all became crystal clear what kind of book. And I would say that I'm already clear on what my next book is going to be.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Is that something to share now, or are you still working away on that?
So, you know, as I mentioned, I'm a mountaineer as well. And there's a lot of experiences that I've picked up from the mountain that you can bring into the companies, you know, that in your own company as a leader. Because in your office, you're protected by your four walls, but in the mountains, you know, you have to bond with Mother Earth, and you are putting your life on the line to some extent, but there's a lot of amazing, valuable lessons that you can learn that you can bring back into your workplace. And so the next book, I haven't thought of the title yet, but it's something about scaling your summit, you know, along those lines.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I see. And I wouldn't call myself a mountaineer at all. I'm not going there. But, you know, just climbing the smaller mountains that we have in Australia, different physical challenges. I grew up with my dad being a PT instructor in the army, well, before I was born. But lots of physical challenges and risky kind of behaviors, I suppose, for some people. But for us, it was just like, you just take on this challenge and it's rewarding. And you learn so much about yourself when you stretch yourself, you know, really in any kind of endeavor, when you really put yourself out there. But I totally relate to that.
But I love what you're saying, Kerrie, because that itself is clutter that we have in our minds. When we say it sounds very hard. Oh, I probably won't be able to do it. Oh, it requires so much effort. These are all excuses.
Yeah.
This is all clutter that we're building up in our mind. How do you know if you haven't tried?
Yes.
You know, I have this thing with the children, and I tell them, if you don't want to do something, I'm okay with it, but you have to try.
Yes.
You know, and after trying, if you say, look, it's this or that, I'm okay. But you have to give it a shot. Let's not block it in our minds, because imagine you failed because you never even took that first step.
Yeah, I love that you're sharing that with your kids, because I think Dad really was so pivotal in helping me see that I can just try hard things, because he was always there to catch me when I jumped from ridiculous heights. And I learned that it was rewarding to challenge myself and to just give it a go. And I remember one time I went to a high ropes course. I didn't actually know where I was going. I was on a coach on a bus with a coach, a business coach. So in Australia, we call the buses coaches as well. So I just realized I've possibly caused some confusion there. But my business coach was taking us on a day trip, and we didn't know what it was, but she said that 80% of people fail at a certain point. And I said to her, I don't know what you're throwing at us today, but I am determined to complete it. And she just looked at me and smiled. And I thought about the day before, she talked about different mindsets in business, and one of them was delusional. And I said to her, well, I'm probably delusional, but I have every intention of completing this. And we got there, and it's like this 3 stages of this high ropes course. So there's the green and the red and the black course, and 80% of people fail at a certain point. And I was just so determined, and I knew I was not in the top 20% of, fittest, healthiest people there, but it was my sheer determination that got me there. But also seeing the momentum and listening, observing what was going on ahead of me. And I realized that day how many moments of physical challenge related to thinking in business, and seeing that, maybe my hesitation here is like what I've done in business. And so I really look forward to reading that book also, to learn from your journey, because I think mountaineering it's so much more of a challenge, I think, than a high ropes course. Some people might beg to differ, but whatever our challenge, there is such deep learning if we go looking for it. So tell us, what have you learned about connecting with people as you've been going through the different challenges, or whether it's mountaineering or in your business life?
So when it came to people, I realized that I used to play the conversation in my mind before meeting someone. Yes. Now, if I'm meeting someone and it's a pleasant experience in my mind before meeting, then it's fine, right? But the moments where I've built this story about the conversation being confrontational.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, I'm going to be meeting Kerrie soon. How do I say this without making her upset? Or, what she did to me the other day that really hurt me. And so I'm entering the conversation with all sorts of variables, right? Which, let's just call it the future.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and no one knows what's going to happen in the future. So I'm building up anxiety based on different role plays in my mind.
Yes.
And so I would enter this conversation with you, Kerrie, with anxiety, perhaps with fear, with anger, with different emotions, but negative ones. And then I started asking myself, I said, hey, Saahil, if you enter a conversation with a negative state of being, how do you expect to get a positive outcome? You're going to lower your chances. You've got this all wrong. And so I said, okay, let's switch this round. Let's enter the conversation with a positive state of mind. Regardless of how I played out in my mind, let's just enter with a positive state of mind. So that could be love, it could be empathy, it could be compassion, and be very clear on what the outcome you desire. So now I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to be meeting Kerrie. I'm really looking forward to seeing her so that we can clear the air, so that we don't have this clutter between us, which is unfortunately impacting our relationship, at least from my perspective. So I'm going to approach this with love. I'm going to approach this with compassion, which gives me the strength. And I'm going to outline right at the start what I want the outcome to be.
Yes.
Because otherwise, imagine if I tell you something that you don't like, and then you start going off on, a tangent because you were upset. But if I'm clear, Kerrie, that I want us to become closer together. And I feel that there's something between us that needs to be spoken about.
Yeah.
Now you know that my intention is to bring us closer and not to separate. So you're going to be in the right frame of mind as well.
Yes.
And then I share with, and then, I have some, I outline it in the book, but to overcome these confrontational conversations, at least that's what I thought was in my head, I developed a framework. So I would not raise my voice, so there'd be no violence, no physical, absolutely not. I would be sure that I would not point fingers, but I would share how I feel. Because if I say, Kerrie, you did this, you did that, you're going to be on the defensive.
Yeah.
But if I share how I feel, it is what I feel.
Yeah.
Right. And then when you respond or reply, I'm going to listen to you. Now you might say, of course you're going to listen, but most people I found are listening to the voice in their head,
yes,
which is getting ready with their response rather than listening to the other person. So I commit to listening to the other person. And look, we're all human. Sometimes emotions can still get high. So I tell myself, especially when I told you earlier about the no violence, if I find my emotions starting to go a little wild, that I feel them heating up,
yeah,
I will just pause and I'll practice some box breathing.
Yes. Do you want to talk us through that? Because I do that and it's changed so much.
Absolutely. So box breathing is essentially you breathe in. Let's just take 3 seconds as a number. You breathe in for 3 seconds, you hold for 3 seconds, breathe out for 3 seconds, and hold again for 3 seconds. Hence, it's like a box, right? And now you might want to do it for 2 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds. It's up to you, depending on your lung capacity, but do whatever works for you and keep doing that until you calm down. And why do I say this? I love to use an example. In general, we're the horse rider and the horse, okay? So when our emotions are under control, if that's the best word to use, we're the horse rider. So we can direct the horse where we want it to go. You want it to speed up, slow down, turn right, turn left. But when our emotions go wild, positive or negative, by the way, not just the negative ones, we become the horse.
Yeah.
And when you're the horse, you don't have control over where you're going to go.
Yes.
And I don't know about you, Kerrie, but I've had those moments where I've looked back and said, I wish I didn't do that. And so box breathing helps me to go back from the horse to the horse rider. And then I don't have those moments anymore where I go, I wish I didn't say that or do that.
Yes. Yeah. And I really like that you highlighted that it can be the positive as well as the negative, because we've all kind of burst into a room with great excitement because of what's going on in our world and not being sensitive to what's going on for other people. And so positive, excitement can get in the way of clear thinking and being present with people. So that just taking a breath or the box breathing can be super powerful.
Another great example for that, Kerrie, is think about those people who win in the lottery or in the casino. It's a positive emotion, they're super happy, and they end up buying stuff and then going, wait, why did I end up buying that? That was a complete waste. Right? So you can still make wrong decisions when you're in a very high positive emotional state.
A heightened emotion either way. Yeah, absolutely. The other thing I found with the box breathing, having developed a habit of consciously slowing down my breathing, I found when I went back to swimming that I can just swim so much further before I get, kind of puffed. My shoulders were wearing out before my breathing did. And I just thought that is profoundly different. And so that was just a practical outcome. But learning to slow my breathing down, I think, has helped in so many different ways. Yeah, to be taking a moment before stepping into a conversation to clear the clutter in our thinking is incredibly powerful. I don't know about you, but I would walk into a networking room when I was like new to business, and I would be feeling like the least adequate, the youngest, the least professional, or all of these least labels that I had in my head that were, as you say, clutter, absolute clutter, getting in the way of just being there and enjoying and serving others and encouraging others and just being who I am and who I want to be with people. So I love this concept of, bringing these aspects of emotional and mental life to clutter, because, decluttering is quite a hot topic at the moment, isn't it? And I think especially during COVID and everybody in lockdown, a lot of people have been decluttering. So you've really broadened that to go, how can we do this right across our life and be free?
I love what you just said, that, you can just go walk into that room and instead of having all this clutter in your mind, you can have fun.
Yes.
That's the key word. It's the joy, right? I mean,
Yes.
Look at children. I didn't realize why I enjoyed spending so much time with children, but it's only after writing the book, I'm like, oh my goodness, now I understand, because they don't have all that clutter. Young children, they just appear as themselves. They're authentic. They're full of love, full of energy. Even if something bad happens, I've had moments with my children. Few minutes later, we're best of friends again.
Yes.
Right? Forget it, forgive, move on.
Yes.
And they're not thinking, oh, my dad did this and my dad said that, and what is my dad going to think if I say this or behave in this manner? They're just being themselves. And I realize I enjoy being with them because they're authentic, and this is what we're missing out on.
Yes.
And as I started to remove the clutter in my life, Kerrie, I noticed that, my goodness, I don't need to act anymore. I don't have to wear this mask. And you know what? It's easy. It's so easy being myself.
Yes. It's liberating.
It was difficult. It was hard being someone that I'm not.
Yes.
Right? So why be the second-rate version of someone else when you can be the best version of yourself?
Absolutely. So I already would like to invite you back for another podcast, like maybe in 6 months, and we can talk about how the book's going. And but before we wrap up, I would love to hear just a few tips to help people with decluttering, whatever it is that they're wanting to declutter in their life at the moment.
So I'm going to share something which I believe every single listener of this podcast can implement immediately. So in my previous life, if you want to call it that, I would wake up in the morning and I'd get immediately after the kids would wake up, I get them ready for school, drop them to school, come back, work out, get ready, breakfast, office, work, quick lunch, work, come back, spend time with the kids, dinner, put them to bed, spend a little bit of time with the wife, perhaps with family and friends, go to bed. Where was me time?
Yeah.
I just felt like I was always on the run. I was reactive. And I said to myself, no, how can I expect to improve? How can I expect to become a better version of myself if I don't allocate any time to myself, invest in me? And so I said, the only way to do this is to allocate an hour to myself. Now, I tried playing around in the day, in the evening, but things keep coming in the way. And I realized the only way to allocate an hour every single day was to do it in the morning.
Yeah.
So I started waking up an hour earlier, before the house wakes up.
Yeah.
And that 1 hour is very precious. Now, there are two no-nos before I get into this 1 hour. What do I do? One is, do not hit the snooze button. I know people love hitting that button, but imagine that's the first action of the day. Is that how you want to set precedent for the rest of the day, that I'm a snoozer?
Yeah.
No, you're a go-getter, right? You don't want to hit snooze. The alarm rings and you're like, okay, let's get up. And the second no-no is no newspapers or phones or anything like that before you do this routine, this morning routine. Yeah. Why? Because imagine you read something that you don't like. Some news report that was very sad, a client emailing you saying, sorry, our deal's canceled, any of those things. Again, I don't know about you, but that puts me in a bad place, and it can sometimes take me the entire day to get back up.
Yeah.
Right? So we don't want to do that. So now that we're clear on what the two no-nos are, let me take you through the morning routine. I spend the first 15 minutes moving, right? We've been lying down for a long time.
Yep.
We want to kind of get the blood pumping around our body, get the heart activated again, right? So just move. You want to walk, you want to do a little bit of exercise, anything, but just ensure there's movement. Then I practice breath work. You talked about the importance of breath work. I practice that every morning. Take those deep breaths, not the ones where your chest is going in and out, but rather if you put your hand on your belly, you see your belly going in and out, those deep belly breaths. And just do that for 10 minutes. Just breathe. After that, I go into reflective mode. So some people might meditate, some people sit in silence. See what works for you. There's no fixed formula, but just self-reflect.
Yeah.
Spend a good 15 minutes or so reflecting. And then I end my morning routine with journaling. And in my journal, I write down 3 things that I'm grateful for, followed by 3 things that I'm excited about.
Oh, that's great.
And then I write a positive affirmation. There's so many different positive affirmations out there. If you just search on Google, you'll see many. Just see the one that gels with you at this moment in your life and use that for a few days. And after going through my positive affirmation, then I go through a quick process of forgiveness. I forgive everyone that I may have harmed intentionally or unintentionally. And I also ask for forgiveness. So I offer and I ask for forgiveness, right? To everyone and everything, whether it was intentional or unintentional. I kind of cleanse myself.
Yeah.
And at the very, very, very end, I get a line which I picked up from the kids, which they got from SpongeBob SquarePants. And I write down, today is going to be the best day ever.
Oh, that's great.
So Kerrie, imagine after going through this routine, can you just imagine how amazing I feel?
Yeah.
And they say the first hour is the rudder for the day.
Yeah.
So you can control how you want your day to go. And if you are in control of your morning, just imagine the results you're going to achieve with the high level of energy that you have.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just excited thinking about it. And I would love to hear from some of the viewers on how much of a positive impact it has on them. Because it's changed my life, I can tell you that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's such a powerful gift that you give yourself. And we can't expect to change our thinking, to walk into rooms with an uncluttered mind and, like a healthy focus, if we're not taking the time to become aware of what is going on up there so that we can let it go, we can cleanse, we can forgive, we can reframe and choose our focus. So that's really powerful. Thank you so much for sharing, Saahil. I'm really excited to hear about your book reaching many unexpected places. I hope that you get some feedback from people, maybe even from countries you haven't heard from yet or haven't even heard of. It's always delightful to realize that your words have traveled so far. So I'm really excited about sharing this conversation out. And I know that you have Gotham, you have so many amazing friends in your corner that are also helping you share this work because it's inspiring and it's so important that we have conversations like this and that we cheer each other on. That's really what I'm passionate about. So thanks for joining this conversation, and I'll see you on social media and we'll share your tags and your links so that people can find Break Free and can do that themselves also. Thank you so much, Saahil. Is there anything that you'd like to add to our conversation before we wrap up?
I always love ending on a little story.
Sure.
So the sailor, he went up to the captain and said, Captain, can I get my pay? And then the captain said, yes, of course, come tomorrow. So the next morning, the sailor is all excited and says, goes up to the captain and says, Captain, can I get my pay today? And the captain said, hey, didn't I tell you tomorrow? So you see, everything that you've heard in this podcast, start today, because there is no tomorrow. Don't say, I'm going to do this one day. Make this day one.
That is beautiful. Thank you so much, Saahil. I love it. Thank you. And thank you all for listening.